Thank you, and welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name's Kevin, and I'm joined by my co-host Eric. Welcome back to our 45th episode this week, where we'll be previewing the Patriots' upcoming game versus the New York Jets. And as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up-to-minute updates and commentary on news of the day, and our website, pats300levelpod.com. So I think the first thing we're going to talk about, we're coming off the bye week, Eric, would just be the Jets preview. What's your kind of overall thoughts about the Jets? We faced them a few weeks ago. Zach Wilson did not really look that well in that game, but the Jets are also 6-3. How do you really think this game will fare out?
Yeah, it's tough to really say. When the Patriots played the Jets last a couple weeks ago, the Jets defense was really good, and it really limited what the Patriots were able to do on offense. Part of that is due to Patriots offensive line being banged up, where Marcus Cannon didn't play well, and then since then he's gone on IR with concussion. They were without David Andrews, so I think if David Andrews plays, that's definitely going to be something that can be a boost. But overall, they do have a good defense too. So part of the reason why they won, they won 22-17. It wasn't as close as the score indicated, but part of the reason for that was Josh Wilson or Zach Wilson just throwing the ball to the Patriot directly to the Patriots, trying to do too much. You can't bank on that happening. When they played the Bills the week after the Patriots, he had no turnovers, and on the season he only had one turnover or one interception outside of the Patriots game. So if you're not able to force him to throw you interceptions, you have to make sure you A, hold on to the ball, and B, you try and take out their playmakers. I think the Patriots should be fine, but you never know what happens in the NFL. Like we saw the Patriots get blown out by the Bears, and then last week or the week after the Patriots beat the Jets beat the Bills 20-17. They really limited Josh Allen throwing the ball. He was only 18 of 34, 205 yards, no TDs, 2 interceptions. He did run the ball 9 times for 86 yards and 2 TDs, but he was sacked 5 times. So they were able to get a lot of pressure on him. When they played the Patriots, they were able to get a lot of pressure on Mac Jones, where they sacked him 6 times. And then Zach Wilson again versus the Bills, he didn't do anything special. He was more of a game manager, what he was the previous 3 or 4 weeks before he played the Patriots, where he was 18 of 25, 154 yards, 1 TD, no interceptions. Jets did get some production out of their running attack versus the Bills. Michael Carter and James Robinson combined for almost 120 yards running the ball. And Garrett Wilson had a really good game against the Patriots. He had a really good game against the Bills, 8 catches, 92 yards. They got some production out of Uzma, their tight end, against the Bills, again, also versus the Patriots too. So kind of seeing the same trend of who they're trying to attack, Wilson and then Uzma. And that's something that the Patriots are going to try and take away. The Patriots didn't have Kyle Duggar when they played the Jets, so that should be something that can try and help stop them targeting the tight end. But we'll have to see. What are your thoughts overall based on just everything in general? What to expect?
Yeah, I think again it's gonna be another kind of it's all going to depend really how the defense plays here for the Patriots, because if they can kind of do what they did last game, it'll make it a lot easier on the Patriots offense, where they won't have to do as much. And everything I've seen from them this year, and really how they've handled different quarterbacks in the past, I feel like Zach Wilson's one of those quarterbacks where Bill just knows how to defend. Where we saw that with Justin Herbert, where Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback, but it always seems like they're kind of licking their chops to face him, because they know how to attack him, and they know how to make him confused and generate turnovers, where he doesn't usually do that for a lot of opponents, but they kind of have that little secret. They have an idea of really how to attack him. And like we've said with Zach Wilson, you have to get pressure on him. You have to get him running backwards. And that's where he starts making those mistakes. And if they're able to continue getting pressure, they're definitely going to kind of make those turnovers happen. And then we'll have the kind of same result where he has an insane amount of interceptions against the Patriots overall. So I think that's really the kind of the key to how this game's going to turn out. If the defense could generate pressure and get Zach Wilson to keep making mistakes, then it should be a pretty good game for the Patriots. But again, Zach is a mobile quarterback. He's not as mobile as like Justin Fields um, or Lamar Jackson or anything like that. But still, it'd be interesting to see if they try and design some more designed runs for him where they try and get it moving and attack the Patriots that way. Because if I was the Jets, that's what I'd do, because that's the best shot of trying to beat them, because they're going to try and sell out to try and get kind of two different, your top two things that you do well, they're going to try and prevent. So I think those QB design runs actually could be something they may focus on a little bit more this week, just because they didn't really show much the last time we faced them.
Yeah, and with Wilson, he was coming back from a knee injury, and it's been a few weeks now. I think it's been 5 weeks, and also coming off the bye. So that might have been why they tried to limit him running, but he did run it 5 times last week versus the Jets. Another thing with Wilson, though, is the Patriots have a bye this before this game, but so did the Jets, and that might be something where, with extra film and extra time for the coaching staff to digest what the Patriots do, especially playing them just 2 weeks ago, that might be something where they can try and coach up Wilson to just be that game manager, where if you see these, if there's no one open, don't throw the ball on the field, throw it out of bounds. And that's something that should be coachable to do, not try and overdo it, but also having that extra bye week and just playing them a couple weeks ago might come in handy where Patriots aren't able to force those turnovers. And if that's the case, if you're not able to force any turnovers, it might be a ball game, especially if, as we've seen, the Patriots have turned the ball over the most out of any team in the NFL this week or this year. So if they're able to get pressure on Mac Jones and force a fumble or force him to throw an interception, or Kendrick Bourne or Nelson Aguilar fumble it or something like that. So it definitely could be a tight game, but I think a lot of it is dependent on the Patriots defense and which Zach Wilson shows up.
I think another kind of big key too for the Patriots are, because they're coming out of that bye, is Duggar and Andrews going to be healthy. Duggar probably more likely that he'll be able to play.
Duggar played versus the Colts.
Did he? I don't even remember seeing him.
He played 63% of the snaps.
All right, so that's good then. And then the other thing would be David Andrews, because the offensive line play that we've seen struggling is when he's been out of the game. So I think hopefully his concussion will be good by then. It's very delicate now with them because the whole Tua situation, where they're going to be extra cautious. So
also concussions are different for every person too. Yeah. And it's tough to really know how fast it takes someone to recover. For one person, it might be a week, even if it's a mild concussion. Like, that's very different for different people. So it's really an unknown.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that he'll be back by then, because he's kind of the glue, I think, to the offensive line to kind of start playing a little bit better. But they still need to figure out that right tackle situation. So I'm hoping coming out of the bye, there's a few things that the Patriots should hopefully try and improve upon. One is figuring out the offensive line overall. You got to figure out what's going on and improve it there, because if you can't block either run block or pass block, you're dead. So they need to figure that out first. And then the second thing is just get more back to basics still with the offense, and have those short passes, the crossers, the in cuts, out cuts, everything that worked last year, and not enough of these kind of go routes, these deep passes. And that's not what they're built on, because you need to make sure the offensive line can block, like you had mentioned in our last episode, where if they can't block, they can't hit those things. So it's never going to work. So they need to get more of that kind of short intermediate passing game working. And then they've been adding more RPOs. So I really like that in the game. I think they look a lot more comfortable with that. So continue doing that. Maybe get a fullback, or convert a linebacker or something for that position. So that way they can have kind of more north-south running than these east-west ones. So those are a few things coming out of the bye. I'd like to see them kind of address there.
If you were to convert someone to fullback, who would it be / who do you think it would be?
Oh God. So it would end up being someone that's not like an every down player. Because the way that they've done it before, they try and grab someone that's I don't think a
Landon Roberts did play a lot though when he did it. He was playing a lot on D.
Do you consider him a star? He wasn't like a starter though.
He played a lot.
Yeah. It's tough because their linebackers are a lot different than they would have been before. So you can't go saying like Mac Wilson's too small. Um, this would be interesting. It'd probably end up having to be like probably like Jennings.
Oh, that's actually a good point.
I'd
I
say
didn't even
Anthony
think of him.
Jennings probably. He's probably the best built for it.
Yeah, I think he would probably be your best, but I could see
That or I
Bill.
could say Bill Murray.
Yeah, him too, because he's been
He's
defensive line,
been
offensive
defensive
line,
line,
but
offensive line. He's a little bit bigger though, but
yeah. I think 100% it would be Tavai, just because Bill loves him and he usually gets players
uh,
like that. But I think Jennings would be the best suited for it.
mhm. That's a fair one. I was gonna say I was thinking about Tavai because they absolutely love him, which he's all right. He's just
Yeah, he's been productive lately, but
he's
I
just
don't know.
he's an all right player. He's a C player. He's nothing
Yeah, you said
special.
that about we said that about Dietrich Wise before too.
And hopefully I'm wrong. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think another key for this Patriots though is they have to stop the running attack, and they've been very successful this year stopping the run outside of teams that have running quarterbacks. Outside of the Bears with Justin Fields, outside of the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, they pretty much shut down opposing teams running attacks. Even Nick Chubb, went into the game versus the Patriots as the NFL's leading rusher, they completely shut him down. Granted, part of that was because Stefanski's an idiot and abandoned the run. But as we saw last week when the Jets played the Bills, Wilson only threw 150 yards, but got production out of Carter and Robinson both running for a combined 120 plus yards. And if you take away the opposing team's running attack, that's going to force Wilson to throw the ball more. And when you're forcing him to throw it more, then you can do more of those all-out blitzes or just defenders just going right after the quarterback since he doesn't run it as much, and knowing that Wilson struggles with pressure. So I think that's going to be one of the big keys to the game is establishing or shutting down the run early to force them to pass.
Yep, that's a very fair point there.
And then another thing is with Wilson, the wide receiver, he had a really big game for them versus the Patriots. He had a really big game versus the Jets or versus the Bills. He's really the only player that's gotten a lot of production. So I think a key thing for them is to try and take him out since they weren't able to do it the previous game. And if you're able to shut down the running attack first and then take out Garrett Wilson, Jets can't really do anything.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the other thing too is just they do have some good running backs with Michael Carter and Robinson. You just have to watch out for them in the passing attack too, because that's where they've had historically struggled, would be covering running backs with their linebackers. So that'd be interesting to kind of see how that acts. Robinson seems to gain more and more play as the week goes on. So we'll see how he does. But he was a good running back for the Jaguars before, but they just have a little bit better of a running back now. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that works out there. Any other keys to the game? I think we kind of addressed all of that.
I think just one that's a given that just the O-line has to get more consistent. It has to get more production and just hold their own. It has to keep the pocket clean where you're going up against a good front. You shouldn't expect them to not give up a single sack, but give Mac enough time to throw and go through his projections to try and at least go through his reads, where the past few weeks, it's just he only has time to really go to one, maybe two receivers. But if he has enough time, then he can go through his different reads. Where that's the thing too, is I know Andrews is out the past couple of weeks, and then Cannon's on IR, Isaiah, and everything. But when they went up against the Browns, who have arguably the best front four, best pass rush in the NFL, granted they didn't have Clowney, but still they had Myles Garrett. I don't think they allowed a single sack the entire game. I think they only allowed one pressure. And then same when they played the Lions too, who have Hutchinson. So they've shown this year that they can do it. It's just very inconsistent. And again, Andrews is probably a big piece of that, being essentially the quarterback of the offensive line, being the center, calling out the protections and everything. But that's something just still that they've shown they can do it. It's just inconsistency. just like with Jake Bailey, the inconsistency I just don't understand.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the next kind of segment. Another trivia question. This week.
Yes. Where does Nick Folk rank in Patriots history for most 50-plus yard field goals made?
I feel like he hasn't had that many, but I'm guessing because you're asking this question, it's probably up there. I'm gonna go third just because the people back in the day probably couldn't kick it as far. So I'm gonna say it's probably Gostowski, then Vinatieri, then Folk.
Close, but wrong. He's second.
Gostowski, and then him.
Gostowski is first with 26 out of 35 attempts. And then it's Nick Folk with 10 out of 15 attempts. And then Vinatieri is third with 8 out of 17 attempts.
Huh. That's interesting.
And then Folk is also first all time in Patriots history in field goal percentage of kicks of more than 25. But he's second if you consider kicks of 10 or more, with Shane Graham being first with 100% when he was the kicker in 2010 when Gostowski was hurt.
I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He's surprisingly very good. The Patriots have some way of finding kickers that are much better.
Vinatieri to Gostowski to Shane Graham to Gostowski to Nick Folk. Granted, before they got Nick Folk, the 2 or 3 kickers they had were very inconsistent. But once they got Folk, it's just been lights out.
All right, moving on to predictions. Kind of did this a few weeks ago. I don't think much of our predictions are going to change. Eric, what's yours?
So even though I know their defense is good and the Jets have 2 weeks to prepare and they're coming off a big win versus the Buffalo Bills and have momentum, I still don't think they're there yet. I still think they're a year away. So I think the Patriots win 31-17, and I think they kind of get that that prove it victory where things start to go in the right direction, and after the bye things start rolling into gear, and it's going to give them the momentum going forward for the tough stretch of the schedule. So I think they win 31-17.
All right. So I have something similar. I've got 27-17. So I figured they'd have 3 touchdowns. I could even see one of those touchdowns being a defensive touchdown, and then 2 field goals. Again, I feel like they've had a lot of field goals. So 2 is a little bit less than the average, what they've been averaging lately. So
4.5 the last 2 games.
So I'll say 27-17, same amount of points that they gave up last time. So, but that's it. All right. Anything else you'd like to mention with the Jets before we sign off?
Not really. Just it should be a good game. Hopefully the Patriots come out on the winning side of it. If they want to make the playoffs, they kind of have to. It's not a must win considering there's still 7 games to go after that game, but considering they're one of the teams you're fighting with and seeing how tough the rest of the schedule is, this is going to be a very crucial game. So they kind of have to win it. So we'll have to see what happens, but hopefully they're on the winning side of it.
Yeah, I'll go on a limb and say it is must win, just because everything you mentioned about them also being 6-3, playoff seeding up for a spot, and also the fact that there's not too many opportunities you have for a loss. You basically have, I think what we did out, because if you count the Bills of both being 2 losses, you only have wiggle room for 1 loss in there.
Yeah, and granted, the Jets beat the Bills, so it's no guarantee, especially with Josh Allen's injury. We'll have to see what. Granted, we're taping this a week before, so we don't know what's going to happen. But we'll have to see Josh Allen's injury. But they theoretically could beat the Bills, but it's tough to say they're going to. So I think you have to be fair and say they lose both, and then they have to win all but one of the other games if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so it'll be a pretty tough task, but they've done it before, so we'll count them out there. So again, thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. And then also follow us on YouTube if you want to do it there. Subscribe there, like the videos, comment on them. Any questions you have, any opposing views that you have, I would be sure to kind of address them. And then follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pats3handleLevelPod, and then our website Pats3handleLevelPod.com. So again, thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.